Walt, there it is. We are in person again after what, like 10 years of being sequestered away? Is that? No, it just felt like 10 years. That's right. Hi, my name is Jessa. I am currently the Senior Director for Research, Strategy, and Design Systems at CapitalOne. And I want to talk to you about a ton of the mistakes I made. I want to talk to you about the things I've learned and just be really honest about why we need to design our teams before we hire them. Okay? But since I am on maternity leave right now, first time mom, yo. Yes, I have not slept for a long time. I'm not speaking on behalf of any company. I'm speaking on behalf of our craft. I'm speaking on behalf of us as designers. I want to share the mistakes I've made, and I feel strongly that we need to do that to have an authentic level of support for each other as design leaders, all right? Maybe even being the support for others that we did not have ourselves. Also, if the mic slips, just tell me and I'll raise it, okay? This is super casual, super chill. If you can't hear me, I'll yell. So first, let's start with a familiar story. Okay, how many of you are hiring today? Show of hands. 1, 2, 3. Okay, cool. All right. How many of you had to hire before? Anybody? All right, yeah. How many of you have had to fire people? Ooh, that's right. Okay, so we've got leaders in the room. If you are a research, if you're a design leader, or you're wanting to move into that position, this is for you, all right? Hopefully you get something out of it. All right, so once upon a time, everything was terrible, the end. I'm just kidding. There was a design leader who had worked her way up from an individual contributor to being a manager. She worked in an enterprise company that did not understand research and design. Sound familiar? Okay, so when it came to hiring, she was expected to figure it out herself. She had no training as a leader on how to write job descriptions, how to open a requisition, on what job codes to use, or strategically how to layer skills for long-term development. She was expected just to do it, all right? Once upon a time, everything was terrible. Woo! Does that sound familiar? No? Am I alone? I'm learning this. Okay, all right. No, I'm just kidding. Does that sound familiar? Okay, you're expected to just figure it out? Okay, all right. So now that we have empathy for each other, this is going to get fun, all right? So, to quote the amazing Taylor Swift, "It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me." That's right. I was that design leader. Okay, I was that design leader. When I was a fresh design leader, I had 13 roles to fill in 3 months. 3 months, or I was going to lose those roles. I was not allowed to change job descriptions. I had no way of knowing how to do an entire interviewing process, and I knew that I had to hire researchers and designers at different levels of the company, but I couldn't fully articulate what they would be doing differently. Right? They had to do different things at different levels, but I couldn't fully articulate it. There was so much challenge. I felt paralyzed. Has anyone else felt paralyzed by the hiring challenges? No, I'm alone again. Oh, no, yeah, I see some. Okay, yeah. It can be a paralyzing, lonely process. So if that sounds familiar, if the story sounds familiar, let me get to the heart of what I want to discuss today. Not that. Great, this is my worst nightmare come true, preet. I literally had a dream this happened, so hang on, y'all. This is probably user error, correct? No? All right, we're back. Hang in there, y'all. Hang in there. Boom. All right, there we go. Okay. Whew. Right, now that the worst thing that imaginable has happened to me, it's all going to be great, okay? All right, what are we going to cover? Hiring the right people requires leadership skills that are often untaught and undeveloped or taken for granted, okay? It is a skill that is unnoticed. Interviews alone really cannot clarify who the right person is and why, okay? We have to learn how to write a full story, but we are not taught that. But the good news is we do have the design tools, if I'm in the way, we do have the design tools and the training we need to rethink our system, to rethink how we do this. All right, but why now? Why am I talking about this in this moment? This is important to me for several reasons. I'm going to touch on 3, okay? 1, There is a war for talent, and you as a leader are at the forefront of that war, and it is global. Okay? Even if you don't have open positions right now, you are going to be fighting to develop your people, to get candidates, to make sure you have a pipeline. Okay? 2, as a leader, one of the most important things, if not the most important thing you will do, is making decisions about people. The most important decisions you can make as a leader in the first 90 days of any role is going to be around people. And then 3, there's a new generation of design leaders. You're looking at it. Look around the room. All right? We are no longer the new kids on the block, but we may owe it to ourselves to be the support that we may or may not have had when we first started out. Okay? So, what I hope you get out of this, I hope that you get a greater appreciation for the role that you play as a leader in building a culture. I hope that you get a fresh perspective on how you could be empowered to build your team and build your vision. I really hope that you walk away going, okay, yeah, I can try a few of those things. We might try something new. All right? But let's define the problem first. All right. There are many problems with hiring, okay? I'm not going to touch on all of them, but I am going to touch on the ones that matter most. So when it comes to hiring, okay, organizations often take leadership skills in hiring for granted, or they rely on systems that were built for efficiency, not necessarily human empathy, to hire, okay? The systems that are built in HR were meant to fill a role as quickly as possible, but that may not be what you and I need. We need to find a person, right, as quickly as possible. All right? And few companies understand how to communicate what the need for the role is beyond a basic job description. This is highly ineffective and highly inefficient because you end up trying to do all of this in the interview process. You try to use the interview process to cram everything into this. So, while companies have an abundant amount of systems for interviewing and for hiring and filling roles, we as leader, we face an anemic amount of resources in learning the art of hiring well. And we are not as good at this as we might think. You might think, yeah, I know how to interview a candidate, da-da-da. No, it is a job that you sometimes have to learn on the go, and it is hard. The hiring process is not over when someone signs a role or onboards, okay? But few organizations know how to build design leaders who are prepared for the year-long process it takes to onboard a person. We usually have to learn through trial and error, okay? Like, I failed this, and I'm going to try something new. This creates design leaders who are unprepared and unsupported in the extreme demand of having to nurture many different skills: product, engineering, design, content, branding, creation. We have to nurture those skills at multiple levels for up to a year in order to get efficiency and to get people really going. And that is hard, it is taxing, and it can feel lonely. So, symptoms, things that might sound familiar, feel free to raise your hand if you see this so people can see that they are not alone, all right? Everybody is the same-ish level, but job duties are all over the place. Sound familiar? No? Yeah? Okay, we got some hands here. All right, look around. You are not alone. Okay, welcome to blank company. All right, and welcome to is part of getting to know your culture, making an excuse. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, welcome to, this is how we do things. No? Yeah, let's agree to take that out of our vocabulary, okay? Different design teams have different hiring practices. Heard a laugh. Yeah, no? That was either a laugh of derision or like, yes, you're speaking my language. And then every few years, someone tries to recreate the onboarding system. Does that sound familiar? Yeah? Someone tries to recreate, we need something new. It's not working. And you can't change minimum requirements, even if you might have someone who you really actually need in that position. Okay, so some of these symptoms. Well, the challenges I've listed here do not encompass everything that we face, okay? But as a design leader, all right, well, what are we supposed to do? We're faced with all of these challenges. And the answer is that we design differently, okay? That's the answer. We have to design differently, and we are the design leaders. And it starts with rewriting our hiring story, okay? Because joining your team is like a story, all right? It really is. And a good story has a middle, it has a beginning, and it has an end. okay? It's kind of basic. All right, we're going to start from the building blocks here. For the sake of this talk, I'm going to call it before, during, and after. There is a before you hire, during you hire, and after you hire, okay? All right, we're all on the same page? Okay. In your journey, you also have characters, people who go through the journey together, like candidates and hiring managers, people who play different roles. And in our journey, these phases, before, during, and after, okay, they're going to be defining the need, interviewing, and then working towards a goal, okay? Kind of simple, kind of basic, all right? Well, in the before, this is where you are defining the need. You're clarifying things about the person's character, their personality, their roles, their motivations, okay? This is where you are designing a vision of your holistic team and your goal. You, design leader, should be asking these questions. Okay, what motivates this person? All right? What are their strengths? I don't know why that font is different, but let's just roll with it. All right? Why do I need this role? If you don't know, I promise you, finance is going to shut you down fast, real fast, right? And you should be able to answer questions like, hey, what's the vision for your team? No. Why really do you need this role? That's the before, okay? And then we get to during. This is where you're using the interview. You might be doing a portfolio review. You're asking people about their resume. This is where you understand the things that you didn't know before, okay? Like, what does your work look like? Are you an iOS designer? Are you Android? Have you worked on systems? Have you done token design? What does your work look like? You're kind of filling in the gaps, right? Why do you want this role? And the candidate should be asking questions, and you should be able to answer questions like, okay, well, what's happening now? What's your culture like? What's your company? What's your team like? What caused you to need me or caused you to need these skills? You should be able to answer those questions, right? And then we go into where are we going? All right, where are we going? You need a vision and a charter. This is where you are answering questions like, okay, what should this person want to achieve in this role? And what outcomes should their quest have if we're going with the story motif, okay? You should also be able to ask things like, in the end, what do they accomplish? Like at the end of the year, what is different? And candidates or the other person is asking like, what will change because of my work? Right? What's going to be different because I made a difference? I made an impact in your company. Here's what's going to be different because of my skill sets, all right? So this is kind of the journey. Here's the problem. Most hiring systems and hiring processes try to do all of this in the interview alone. Everything that we just talked about, they try to cram it into the interview process because it's easy to emphasize what's happening now while being increasingly vague about who is your role targeting? What is the work going to be like when you're doing it together? What skills do you need to seek that are recession-proof? If we have a recession, how does this role flex? What should a year look like? What should a year's difference look like? Okay? And the consequences are kind of bigger than you think. And consequences aren't always good or bad. They're just things that happen. But here are some, all right? You adjust the culture with every hire, okay? Hiring consequences ripple harder and longer than any other decision or mistake you will make as a leader. You don't raise the bar with every hire or promotion. You actually change it, okay? That's the difference. So be sure that you know what you're changing it to. Another consequence is that diversity does not just happen, okay? Diversity in your company starts with how you design your team before you hire them. Do you wait for a diverse candidate to apply and then be like, yeah, we're being diverse? That's happened to me, okay? I'm telling you about my mistakes. I'm not perfect. It's me. Hi. Yeah, I'm the problem. Okay, or do you intentionally challenge yourself to your description and fit any need that you need in diversity? Another consequence, hiring mistakes are extremely expensive, okay? Red Adair said, if you think it's expensive to hire a professional, wait till you hire an amateur, right? It takes months for someone to really start knowing your company, and then about 6 months is when you'll see candidates and people really starting to produce. But it takes about a year for someone to fully feel comfortable and gain traction, okay? So while it takes months to hire, it could take years to recover from a poor hiring decision, and that is expensive. Bringing someone in is much easier than letting someone go. You think like, oh yeah, duh. But no, really. It takes a skilled leader to manage out poor performance, and that is not always something that we are taught. It is something that many leaders shy away from, right? Nothing drives out the right people faster than the wrong people. So you bring in one person who's not a great fit, you can bet that 2 or 3 people will leave as a result. That is dangerous, and that's hard. We're going to make that mistake. So the next consequence is that your team charter seems uneven. You start to have skills that are homogeneous, lopsided. The vision of where your team needs to go does not seem complete. There might be role confusion or level confusion. And questions will pile up. Questions like, okay, well, how does this role fit into the larger team, right? Questions like, what should actually motivate this person? Or even, are we all doing the same work? How does this role fit in the larger team? I already said that. Great. I'm going backwards. Awesome. Here we go. I think I've caught up. So even things like, well, how does this research role differ from another research role at a same level in the company, or a design role? Pick the role. Pick the plot, whatever it is. Can you answer that question, right? Are we all doing the same work, or is there actually a difference? Things like, are you promoting arbitrarily? Are you promoting based off of like, oh, well, I really like this person? Or is there actually a clear path for your candidates to get to the next level? That's a very dangerous thing to skip over. So, all right, back to our story. Back up. All right, if we remember our story, I had 13 open roles. I had 3 months to fill them because finance was telling me, you fill these in 3 months or I'm taking them away. Awesome. And I had no idea pretty much what I was doing. This was, years ago. I still have no idea what I'm doing most of the time. So just, guys, it's okay. Most design leaders, a lot of times we're more lost than you think. It's okay. Just breathe in, breathe out. It's all right. So I realized, oh my God, this isn't an HR problem. This is a design problem. Duh. And I was like, okay, all right, duh, it's a design problem. So what would a designer do? So I closed the 8 or 9 tabs that I had open. I pulled out a piece of paper and I asked myself, what actually would a designer do? I realized that I was missing 2 parts of the story, okay? I was missing the before and after. I was missing the part where I understood what I needed, but I'm a designer, right? So I can design anything. All right, cool, that helps me. You're a designer, right? You can design anything. So we got to redesign or design differently what I need. But I was missing key elements of this. And I was relying on the hiring process to fill it all in. So I figured, all right, well, what would a designer do? So I pulled out a piece of paper, and what I did next has stayed with me for every single role that I have hired since then. In fact, Preet and I even, we tossed around the idea of doing a startup based off of this, and we were this close. And then, the pandemic happened. But whatever. These 2 methods, I want to share them with you. Feel free to take from it whatever you need, but I hope you do get something out of it. Here's what I did. Think WWADO, all right? What would a designer do, right? WADO, all right, think WADO. What would a designer do? And I figured, okay, well, a designer would design, but design what, right? So I thought, okay, if I were a product designer back in my product designer days, what would I do? I would start with a persona. I would start with research. I would start with a persona. But, okay, wait. You can't use a persona for a candidate because personas are based off of an amalgamation of a lot of people. But proto-personas, oh, I've used them quite a bit. We use those in a pinch all the time. So what if I created a persona of my perfect candidate, all right? What if I designed for my perfect candidate? In research years, I have used proto-personas, okay? Proto-personas are a description of a target audience based off of assumptions. And I had a lot of assumptions as the hiring manager, right? It allows you to get started with design without having to be bogged down, all right? Then you fill in the persona later with actual research, which is really great. So it's an ad hoc way of building before building, all right? And I had done it multiple times, and I was like, all right, what if I built a proto-persona of my team, of what I needed? So I want to show you the way I started designing my team before I hired them, okay? Feel free to take pictures. Feel free to use this. Feel free to build your own. So let's get started. How many of you have roles that are open now? No? Okay, hey, everybody look around. If you're looking for a job, the people with their hands up, those are the ones you want to talk to. All right, how many of you just wish you could hire people? And yeah, I always, like, my team could be 3 times bigger and I'd still want more people, right? Okay, great. So keep that in mind. Pull out a piece of paper, follow along, okay? Or open a new tab or whatever it is, pull it out, see if you can follow along and fill out what your role would be. Here's what it looked like, all right? It worked really well. It actually worked really, really well. I want you to imagine a role your team needs. Could be fiction, could be real, doesn't matter. You start with the bio, and I did it again. Preet, it's me. Hi, I'm definitely the problem. There we go. All right, so you start with the bio. What background matters, okay? This is not a demand. This is not a list of demands, all right? What collaboration might signal a good candidate, okay? Hey, I need someone who had startup experience. This person has an MBA. This person worked overseas. Just a few lines. Quick bio. Put that here. Then you have your goals. What vision drives the person? Really think about it. How does that vision then align to your company? You have to do the work to figure that out. What should the goal be? Their goal is creating beautiful design systems no matter where they go. Okay, awesome. I want someone with design system experience. All right, then you go into the key role. What are 2 or 3 things that are specific to this role? All right? This isn't a job description, all right? It's one step lower than that. It gives you an idea of what you're needing them to be able to do. And then strengths. Again, this is not a list of demands. Really think through, what should this person be good at? Maybe you need someone who has managed managers. Maybe you need someone who has launched IPO, gone through IPO. Maybe you need someone who's fresh out of college. What's their strength? Are they good at confrontation? Are they good at singing on stage when everything goes wrong? I don't know. I can tell you guys are hungry. Don't worry, we're almost done. Then, what are they responsible for, all right? What should they do? So for example, hey, they're responsible for meeting one-on-one. They're responsible for removing roadblocks. You see how it's expansive, but it's not prescriptive? You're really thinking through, I need them to be able to do this in their daily job. And then, my favorite part, then you create your non-binary variables, okay? Non-binary variables are variables that are not a yes, no. They're on a sliding scale, okay? These are attributes that have a sliding scale. They tell 2 sides of a story of experience. So for example, everyone on our team needs to know finance, but not at the same level, okay? Or maybe everyone on our team needs to know research. They need to be a research novice or a research, wizard. I don't know. But it lets you, it's not a years of experience. It's not specific skill sets. It gives you, the leader, you have to think through, how much experience do I need to balance out the rest of the team? And you can pick whatever you want. Non-binary variables are great that way. Then finally, what quote illuminates what they care about? Don't skip this part. This is easy to skip, but don't skip. What quote illuminates what they should care about in their role, how it encompasses their role? So I started building this. All right, you all are designers. Open up InDesign, create a template, slap some stuff in there. Start using it, right? But here's what it might look like. You could start to create clarity between roles that overlap. This is literally one of the ones I created in hiring one of my UI designers, all right? For example, you have a UI designer. I need that UI designer to become a design leader in the industry, right here, and within the company. All right, that's her goal. That person wants to be a leader, which signals I want someone that I can hone in mentor in leadership versus maybe a senior design lead, okay? This person, one of their goals is to create and execute granular design strategies and products. Suddenly, there is a clarity between these 2 levels of a UI designer and a senior design leader. And you can do as many roles as you want because it's not a persona. That's right. It's whatever you want and you need to make of it. Or maybe you need non-binary variables that are different for product people. So for example, you can adjust your variables. Like maybe your product person, here I have, contributing to a vision versus driving the vision. I need someone who knows how to drive a vision versus contributing to it, right? And whatever that looks like, that's what your interview is for. That's where you're asking them questions in your interview, all right? Or maybe someone who has managed managers. I need someone who has managed development or maybe invests in development. Pick your non-binary variables. Suddenly, all right, It was like a light bulb went off. Blah. I was like, oh my God, it's a design problem. I could start building teams. I created dozens of these and started moving them around. What if this person did this? What if that person did that? If the role changed, how might I need that person to change? This has actually proven most helpful in the upcoming recession that we're now facing, because I can figure out how does that role need to flex beyond the job description that we're posting, right? I was able to clarify the vision for the role and the team dynamics, right? Creating space for what the team could be and how they could grow. And it was great, right? What the team could be became a lot easier to design. And that's what you need to do as a design leader. What could your team be? Not just what is it now. So this is when I started realizing why I could start arguing for things like data roles and product roles and engineering roles. And I started pushing back and saying, no, I need this type of person because here's what they're going to do. And then when I switched jobs, I did it again. But it doesn't stop with you. The benefits don't stop there, okay? So you can use these to clarify with other key members like recruiters. Dude, my recruiters love me because they're like, okay, let's do an intake call. What do you need? I'm like, let me tell you what I need. Here are all of the roles I need. Here are my people. They love it because this is what they need to know by interviewing you, right? And if you have the clarity, it's so much easier. Also, I have sent these to candidates. When people ask me, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about this role? Yeah, I absolutely can tell you more about this role. Let me send this to you. It's non-proprietary. I mean, there's nothing like groundbreaking in it, right? But it's easy to show candidates, no, I have thought of this. Do you see yourself fitting? Also, it became a lot easier for leadership to understand how my team needed to expand. I was able to build fictional universes and fantasy castles with all of the roles and all the teams, and then I would get slapped down and say, all right, you can fill 3 of these. But they understood the larger vision, right? It starts with your creativity. I was able to clarify first within myself and then to others why I needed the roles and why design and research needed the roles, all right? But here are some tips, okay, that I have learned along the way. Some of the things that you might want to consider. Use diverse names and use diverse photos, okay? Diversity doesn't start after someone, applies to a job. It starts with how you build the vision for your team. This also challenges you to look for unconscious bias and things like, hey, are all of your admin roles for women? Are all of your engineering roles for men? Does everybody have the name John Smith? Yeah. Is everybody a white female, a white male, or are you putting diversity in there? It really challenges you because you can start seeing that subconsciously. First time I did this, I will honestly say everybody was white. Most of them were male. And it was a really good gut punch of like, hey, Jessa, it starts with you. You are not building this in. And I was like, oh gosh. But this is a really good way. Use diverse names. Challenge yourself to use diverse names and diverse photos. Use non-binary pronouns, okay? Not only does this speak to inclusivity, but when you have to go update this later on, it's a lot easier for the copy. You don't have to go change all of these pronouns. It's a lot easier. Use they, them pronouns, and it makes it easier for you, and it also speaks to the inclusivity of what you're wanting in your team. Your bios are not a list of demands, okay? It's easy to get carried away. This should give you the kind of idea of a background and the experience that you're looking for and what your recruiters should look for, okay? I've run this by recruiters before, and they love it. Your goals and motivations should be evergreen, okay? This is something ongoing. It should depict the end purpose of the role and what they should accomplish. It should be big and achievable, but it should not be like, I want you to do this specific thing. That's not what this is for. And when it comes to skills, all right, pick 2 non-binary variables because you don't really want to say how many years or what type of skill set. That's what a job description is for. Again, we're filling in the before. This is for you as a leader to really think about the level of expertise that your team needs. What does your team need to have rounded out? So that was part 1. That was the before, all right? But I wasn't done. So I thought to myself, all right, how might I make it easier to clarify the goal for which we're working for? Okay, what about after they join? All right, think WWADO, WADO. All right, what would a designer do? Now, you might already know the answer to this, but I figured a designer would design, all right? Same thing, a designer would design. But design what? All right? For this, I actually went back into my research toolkit and I thought about what I had used in product design before to figure out what goal we were working towards. I decided to use a modified version of something called a love letter and a breakup letter. Has anyone heard of that before? All right, yeah. Okay, some people have heard of a love letter and breakup letter. This is where you ask, it's a design thinking technique where you ask users to think about breaking up with an experience, and they write out a breakup letter. I hate this app because you always crash. I don't know. And then you ask them to write a love letter of what they love about the new experience. But here's the thing. I'm not going to write a love letter to a candidate. Okay, that's kind of weird. But I figured you can write a thank you note. So I figured in a year, if I were to thank them for doing something, and I were to write a thank you note, what would I put in that note? I had to write, in a year from now, what am I articulating that you have done differently, or what has changed? This is different than a 5 or 2 year vision or whatever your vision, because you're being specific without being, pedantic or micromanaging. So, and also you need to pick a time frame. A year is a really good indicator of what candidates will ask you. Hey, what changes in 90 days or a year from now? Answering that should be easier. So here's how I built it. You need to clarify the specific outcomes that this role does. So I started by asking myself a few questions, right? So ask yourself a few questions, put it in bullet points. If you're following along with the role you need, feel free to jot these down. You have to ask yourself and clarify within yourself first, why do I need this role, okay? Put a few reasons, be specific. We're going to use an engineering as example. Okay, I need a design system engineer to bring our code up to standard. There are other things that happen here, all right? Be specific. Then you ask yourself, what is this person going to work on, all right? Example, okay, they're going to work on creating standard document and bringing design teams up to speed with all of the changes. Again, expansive, but not really specific. I'm not telling you how to do your day-to-day job. We are all adults. You'll figure that out. Don't worry. But be specific, but really not prescriptive here. Ask yourself, in a year from now, they work on this. Look at my font changes, y'all. That's awesome. In a year from now, if they work on this, what will be different, okay? Clarify, but do not dictate. For example, in a year, we need to retire our old documentation. We need to have a roadmap for converting to the new system. That's what will be different in a year. I mean, it's pretty expansive. You can fill in the blanks, right? Let's see if this font choice is going to mess up again. Absolutely. All right. What are the expectations of the role itself? All right. What are some of the expectations? That's what it's supposed to say. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. I didn't do the fonts right. What are the expectations of the role itself? All right. Put these in bullet points. And this is not task. All right. Be specific. For example, this person needs to hire top talent, and they need to be able to mentor others. All right, because it's not just about work. It's also about the person and what the role requires. A manager role might require something different than an individual contributor. And this might be what it looks like, all right? So you have your thank you note, all right? Then you put the pieces together. You've answered all of those questions, and then it's kind of like a Mad Lib, all right? Dear role. Anybody got a role? Researcher, manager, whatever it is. Thank you for doing something. Right? That's generally how we start. Hey, I want you to do something. I'm not too clear on what. Because of your work in, all right, fill in the blank of your projects, we are now able to, I don't know, you know what you need to do, all right? Thanks to your work, we now, whatever is different, all right? We now have a research system. We now have a tagging method. We now, I don't know, fill in the blank. Because of your ability to, whatever the expectation is, we've seen a difference. And it doesn't have to be this format. Write your own thank you note. You can plagiarize this one, not a problem. All right? But this might be what it looks like. Let's use our example from before, okay? Dear design system engineer, thank you for bringing our code up to standard. Bam! Those bullet points are coming in handy. Because of your work in document and tokens, we now have a standard. All right? You're filling in the blank. Oh, because of your work, we've reduced our tech debt and we have a roadmap. Nice. On what next year will be. And because you have a great ability to mentor others, designers want to work with us. You just fill in the blanks. All right? This is what it might look like. Is this new to anybody? Is this interesting to anyone, or everybody just want lunch? Yeah? Everybody want lunch? Awesome. But why this helped, okay? I promise, I'm almost done, and then you will be free of me, I promise. It became easier how to clarify how the individual contributed to the team's purpose in a tangible way, all right? The font's messed up again. Just move with it. Just watch my face. This is all you need, right here. Right here, y'all. Don't look. It reaffirms the trust and the purpose for the role, and that people on the team have a purpose for why you're hiring them. That's really important. If we want people to work with a purpose, all right, we need to have purposeful hiring. That is a given. We need to understand how their personhood contributes to more than just a task, but to our team dynamic as a whole. How does it contribute to your vision as a leader? What is your vision as a leader? All right? Because Stanley McChrystal said, purpose affirms trust. Trust affirms purpose. And together, they forge individuals into a working team. That is the task at hand, forging individuals into a working team. And that is not often taught to design. That's not often. I didn't learn that in a formal class. Did anybody else? If you raise your hand, I'm going to be so jealous. But no, this is something that we have to learn, and we will continue to learn. People follow a vision. And learning how to articulate a vision down to this level is a hard discipline that we as leaders have to do ourselves first, because it makes the interviewing process and finding the right people a little bit easier. Here's how you can use these. Let's cross our fingers on the fonts, y'all. Let's see if it works. Yes, it does. All right, so like a team charter, okay, writing this down clarifies your purpose. It first clarifies it within yourself and then to others. There is a lot of power in the written word. There's a lot of power in writing. Studies have shown that it marries the left and right brain together. Telling a story brings together logic and fantasy, and it clarifies that purpose within yourself, okay? Use this to challenge yourself, all right, on whether you're wanting one role or several. If your thank you note is 5 pages long, that's 3 roles, people, okay? That's like 3 different jobs. That's not possible in a year. Again, you're only thanking them after a year. So if your thank you note is like, thank you for changing the world, which is kind of, you've been in interviews where people are like, we want you to save us. And you're like, I'm out, bye, right? It also, you can use this when someone onboards. So here's what I do with these. I use these as part of my onboarding materials. I personally ask my new hires to take a look and read through the thank you note. I ask them to come up with a list of questions and clarification. We then, in the next 30 days, I will revisit that thank you note and ask them how their vision works. Like, hey, what doesn't make sense? Do you need to know more about this project? Here's some roles you need to know about, whatever it is. But I will personally have my new hires read a thank you note, question it, and then I'll ask them, can you come up with a plan? Show me how you would do this, right? This is just fictional. This is not a dictatorship, sort of. It's a benevolent one, if anything. I'm just kidding. But here are some tips, all right? Here are some tips. Use active language, okay? Like, thank you for changing. I appreciate how you blank because you did this. And use active language. Use verbs. All right, we're going back to our grammar school days. It's awesome. All right? This should be big but not impossible. All right? It's not a wish list. It's not a list of demands. You're not holding someone hostage. It should be doable but challenging. All right? You should not be able to finish everything, but it should stretch you. You need to make room for personalization. All right? You write it so that how someone does this is up to them. You're just being clear on the what. All right? This is not, here, I want you to exactly do this. Why are you hiring someone if you know exactly what needs to be done? That's not good leadership, y'all. That's not what this is. So leave room for personalization. This is imagination. It is not evaluation, all right? Use this to show where you want to go, but do not use this as a performance evaluation, okay? That is toxic. Please don't take this beautiful thing and then twist it into that, all right? We already have enough problems as leaders. That's not what this is. This is just an idea for people to then personalize. So we need to think about the whole story, all right? In conclusion, we're thinking about the whole story. We need to identify what is missing, because half a story is like really boring, right? You read half a story and it's done, you're like, that's boring. For me, designing for my team before I hire is one of the ways that I answer the question, what's the vision? And taking the time to write something as simple as a thank you note is how I answer the question, where are we going? I package these together and I hand it off. All right? Using something as simple as putting this into words makes a vision a reality. I use these tools to fill in the gap, and I use them to challenge myself all the time. But in the end, and I promise we are almost done, why do this? Okay? Why do this at all? Because nothing you do as a leader is going to be more important than how you hire and develop people. Period. Our best bet is on people. Not strategies, it's on people, okay? And these are the skills that are hardest to learn because they expose our most vulnerable self. We have to ask for help. We have to admit that we don't know. And we have to beat down the ever-present sense of the imposter syndrome in order to create a vision and design something new. So, thank you. That was my talk. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessa.
Yeah.
Also, thank you for moving along with the few fun glitches that I was noticing from the back. Now the idea is out. We were going to build a startup on it.
Yeah, I know. We were actually gonna build a startup with this, but now the idea is out. Use it. Use it shamelessly.
Yes. So before we go into the questions, I'm assuming some people might have the question. I definitely had. So when you are in a leadership role, you have 10,000 things to do on your mind. 10,000 people, stakeholders, all those kind of cognitive load going on in your head. So thinking about designing this whole hiring experience, building these tools, how long did it take? And was everything else rosy? And so you were like, okay, I have some time. And I'm gonna do this.
My hair was on fire. It was midnight. I was tired. There was old Chinese takeout next to me. I wanted to go to bed. No, look, why do this? Does this seem superfluous? Because unless you can clarify within yourself what your team and culture and dynamic needs, it's going to be really hard to attract the right talent. People can sniff that out from a mile away, whether you are authentically needing them or whether you're just filling a seat and they need a warm body. And the other thing was, has anyone heard of the term cry once, buy once? Like, okay, put a little bit of effort into it and then you can reuse it over and over again. That was my thought, is creating a template and taking the time to write through it really allowed me to clarify not only how the roles differed, but it allowed me to reuse it over and over again. And also, did it take a long time? No. This started out as a piece of paper. Seriously, it started out as a piece of paper with, just your simple drawings on it. What you saw was the nice, shiny presentation, because I'm not going to show you a piece of paper at a conference like this. But pull out a piece of paper and jot a few things down, even a few sentences, you'll start to realize how little you have thought through what you actually need. And that's an exciting place to be. So, I don't know if that answered the question.
It did. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have questions for Jessa? Thank you, Anjali.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and I was in this exact situation about a year ago, and I hired the team already. And the question I have, and I'm also in a startup, which the company I hired for is not the company it is today. Have you ever used any of these processes with folks who are already hired? And what would that look like? How would you approach that differently?
That is tricky. That is challenging. So it is hard to retrofit a proto persona and be like, I want you to be this. That can be a little bit hard. Okay. How I have used these is I have shown my team while we're opening roles and said like, hey, this is kind of the idea of what we're looking for. Do you guys have any thoughts? Do you want to input your perspective? But once a team is already hired, again, this is why this work is like, it takes time. Once a team is already hired, using proto personas can become a battle because you're trying to retrofit, right? And that's why the work up front is so important. But using the thank you note, I've actually used the thank you note in OKRs. Like every year I write new thank you notes. I'm like, okay, does this seem right? Does this seem good? So my team expects a thank you note and they come back and they're like, I think this is doable. I don't think that's doable. And I have my managers and my directors write thank you notes for their teams too. So I have used the thank you note ongoing. The proto persona is hard because how would you use it? Would you use it to say this is a performance evaluation? This is what you should be doing? No, that's where your company processes need to be already there. But the thank you note I have definitely used again, especially when coming up with, hey, what are our OKRs? What should we accomplish as a team next year?
Great question. One more? Oh, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Rachel. You and the previous speaker both talked about looking at potential candidates' goals, their career trajectory, what they want. And for me, that kind of starts to translate into crafting an experience for them that in 2 or 3 years, they may develop some new competencies. They'll feel really comfortable and accomplished and everything. And then what happens to the C-suite? And they say, so you're just running kind of a training program here? You expect people are going to be out of here in 3 years? Like, how does that jive with long-term?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's how does it jive long term? Well, one of the ways back to Rachel, was that your question? Yes. One of the ways that long term it helps me look at teams is saying, hey, if you want to go to you're a UI designer and you want to become a lead designer, let's take a look at what a lead designer is expected to do, their goals or motivation. Do you see yourself fitting into this? So it's not really a burn and churn. It's more of here's kind of a pathway. Do you see yourself in this role in 3 or 5 years? Here's the role today. Here's what it might be later on. And it's more of a fluid thing. This is not a one and done. So it's not supposed to be a talent assessment of like, you need to learn these skills. It's more helping. I've used this to help my team understand what's the difference between being a director and being a manager. And like, here's what you need to work for. You need to work, hey, let's find, do you have experience in finance? No, you're probably going to need experience in finance in this next role. Things like that versus okay, I just want you to become this person and then you're out, bye. No. This creates a longevity for what your team can stay with you and continue to accomplish and be. I don't know, did that answer the question? It did. Okay, awesome. Anything else?
Amazing.
All
Okay.
right. Well,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much, everyone. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.